Bandai Namco is making a new full-size arcade for your home arcade, the Class of '81 Pixel Bash Edition. I had a chance to play it, and I'll go over everything that's good and everything that's wrong with it. Bandai Namco has plenty of arcade machines that you can find on their website, but most people are familiar with their Pixel Bash Pac-Man themed arcades. These Pixel Bash Pac-Man editions are slightly smaller than a full-size arcade, but built really well and look beautiful. But today we are focusing on this new full-size arcade remake of the Class of '81 arcade. The Class of '81 arcade was a cabinet made by Namco in the year 2000 to honor the 20-year anniversary of Miss Pac-Man and Galaga. Now, while at CES, I had a chance to take a very close look at this machine, play it, and I discovered everything that was wrong with it, and you're going to want to hear this. I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll give you a full review of this machine, and you can determine if it's worth the $3,400 price tag. If you're not familiar with their main arcades, here's a quick look at what they were showing at CES, and let's let their sales rep explain it to you firsthand.
Hi, I'm Steve Ignarski with Bandai Namco. I do sales for the company. Right now we have all of our home product here at CES. This is our bistro table. Then we also have a cabaret and also a full-size upright. All these have 32 games on them, loaded with all of our licensed products. Everything comes built, assembled, fully assembled, built on our commercial line. In the US, each game has 32 classics on there that we have all the license rights to. Exact same software that we came out with, down to the hardware as well. All hap controls on everything. Stools are extra, but we have a bunch of different range of stools, carpeting, posters, wall, home decor, down to pint glasses. Bistro tables, $31.95. We also have a smaller version, a cocktail table, in 3 different finishes. That's $3,000. The cabaret with the mini fridge in the bottom is $31.95, and then their full-size upright is $33.95. Again, all of them coming with our 32 licensed games. $33.95 for the full size. Just a false coin door on there. You open that up. That's where all the controls are. You can switch that from Speedy Pac-Man or Rapid Fire Galaga, just like the originals as well.
All right, let's dive into this Class of '81 full size. Let's start with some aesthetics that I think were misses, but maybe just preference for some people, starting with the chrome T-molding. That was actually black on the original. I think they did it to kind of snazz it up a little bit, make it look a little more sharp. Then you have the marquee. It has that pixel bash on there. Obviously, that wasn't on the original either. The artwork is beautiful, let me tell you that, but it is glossy. It's the glossy look, not like the flat look from the original. The coin door. Now, this is a fake coin door. Like he says, it does open, and you do get to change some of the settings or access dip switch settings, but this is the wrong coin door. The right coin door was the long or elongated coin door with actually 2 doors built into one coin door. So this is kind of a miss. Maybe they could have done a faux coin door like the original. Now moving on to the control panel. This is kind of a big one for me. The artwork is kind of right. I understand why they had to put 2 buttons for the multiple games on it that use 2 buttons. But the original control panel had 2 start buttons on the right for Galaga and 2 start buttons on the left for Miss Pac-Man, which were actually yellow, not white in this version. Taking a look at the bezel, they decided to add all the games and game logos on the bezel, which is perfectly fine, I guess, but it's not the original. This is the original. I obviously would prefer the original bezel on mine. You can find the games list on their website if you want, but as we scroll through these game lists, here's where we go awry. You can see some of these games, like Dragon Spirit and Xevious, are 8-way joystick games. Now, I'm a big proponent of using 4-way joysticks on 4-way games only and 8-way joysticks on 8-way games. Games like Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Mappy, these are all 4-way joysticks, and I only want to use a 4-way joystick with those games. We all know the problems of getting hung up on diagonals, so I won't go into that. Now, I did play this game, and the joystick is fantastic. It feels very soft and yet is a micro switch joystick. It's HAP, and most people probably won't even notice when they get hung up on the diagonals when they're making turns. For me, I just need the right joystick. Now, although that's a pretty big miss, here's a bigger one, the monitor. It is a 16 by 9 1080p 26-inch monitor, and what they did is use the bezel to crop the monitor in order to get the right aspect ratio, a 3:4 vertical aspect ratio, which is great. The problem is when I walked up, I immediately said, no way is this 1080p. Are you sure this isn't maybe 720? Because the screen looked blurry. Now, don't use this image as a reference because this is just the camera and pausing and using a fixed screenshot. But I can tell you firsthand, there was something wrong with the image. Now, a lot of you recall the Arcade 1-Up Pac-Man issue years ago where it also had a blurry image, not crisp. And people thought it was a setting called bilinear filtering, which is similar to the way I felt this screen looked. With bilinear filtering, you can see in this front end of RetroArch, you can turn on a setting called bilinear filtering, and it adds a slight blur to the image. Now, this is what I almost think that was happening with Namco's Class of 81 as well. The image was extremely blurry, and although this video doesn't do it justice in this example using emulation of my own, it was bad. Now, I try to show a side-by-side here of the difference, but honestly, the Bandai Namco version of how they had this filtered was way worse and looked a lot more blurry than when you use it in your home emulation projects. Now, my biggest pet peeve is obviously they don't use the right ROM. They do not use the Class of 81 ROM where you select Miss Pac-Man on the left and Galaga on the right. Arcade 1-Up did the same thing, and when I asked why they didn't use it, they blamed it on the licensing. Now, I knew this was going to be the case as soon as I looked at the control panel and saw that they didn't have the correct setup. Just a big miss in my eyes. So listen, I had a chance to buy this for $2,400, the floor model, and he was going to throw in 3 stools. And I passed. I said no. As much as I want a Class of 81, I was not going to buy this simply because it had too many misses. I wasn't going to look at this thing every day and say, oh, I wish it had the right ROM. I wish it had the right joystick. I wish it had the right coin door. I wish it had the right bezel. There's so many things that were just going to irritate me with it that I couldn't buy it. Now, that's not to say this isn't a great machine. It's well built, and I think people would be really happy with it, especially if you had an Airbnb or something like that. It's going to hold up much better than an Arcade 1-Up. It has a ton of good games on it, and I think anybody would be happy to have this that isn't as, well, let's just say critical as I am. So, hey, that's my final thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a thumbs up and think about subscribing. Thanks.